Welcome to Business Files, as we continue our weekly discussions on matters relating to business, finance, and our economy. Now, we are here every week, putting the latest business, economic, and financial issues into proper context and proposing real solutions. This week, we turn our focus on Grenada's Airlift program and on ongoing attempts by the Airlift Committee to attract international flights to our Isles of Spice. On Business Files tonight, officials of the country's Airlift Committee and officials of the International Airport are here to talk about the program and about new developments. I am Michael Archibald, and this week's edition starts right now. Grenada's airlift situation continues to be a challenge for government and for tourism officials. We have been forking out millions of dollars annually to get certain airlines to schedule flights to this destination. The question is this program worth the cost? We will find that out tonight. With the island's heavy economic dependence on tourism, regular international flights from the major markets is as important as our Grandad's Beach. And still, airlift into Grenada remains a challenge. What will it take to make Grenada an attractive destination for our international carriers? And is government, tourism, and hotel stakeholders doing all they can to encourage the level of airline capacity that will make flying into Grenada financially attractive? Tonight, Business Files goes in depth with Chairman of the Airlift Committee, Michael McIntyre, and General Manager of the Maurice Bishop International Airport, Lester Andal. This is Business Files. I am Michael Archibald, and my interview is next. This is Business Files, and I'm your host, Michael Archibald. This week, we are pleased to welcome here and into your living rooms and your bars and wherever else you might be listening to Business Files, Chairman of the Airlift Committee, Michael McIntyre, and Manager of the Maurice Bishop International Airport, Lester Andal. Gentlemen, welcome to Business Files.
Thanks very much for having us here this evening.
I want to start off our discussion by letting our viewers know, why was this committee set up? What was the purpose? What was the thinking behind the establishment of this Airlift Committee?
I'll try and be as quick as possible. In 1990, an airline called GMC was coming into Grenada out of the UK, and just suddenly, all of a sudden, just stopped flying. And the then Prime Minister asked me as chairman of the airport to go to England to try and see if we could look for an alternative carrier. I told him I couldn't do it alone because I didn't have the experience really, and so on. So he said, well, you get people in the UK that have the professional experience. So we got up a little team of Sir Royston and myself, and we were really the main two initially in it. And when we were going to England, we felt that to go to England and try to do this all on our own would have been difficult for the island. So we asked Tobago to come along with us, and that's how the whole thing got started. They came along with us, and we were able to get, as a replacement to GMC, Monarch Airlines initially.
To come to Grenada.
To come to Grenada. So that was the start off of the Airlift Committee.
But the purpose was to try and attract
more carriers to the island, and when there were negotiations, the airlines would deal with us, with the Airlift Committee.
How long has the committee been in existence?
We've been in existence now for about 10 years.
And you have been the chairman all along?
For all along.
Lester, what is the current situation with regard to international flights into the airport? How many international, or who are the international carriers that presently utilize the Point Saline Airport? Oh, sorry, the Maurice Bishop International Airport.
Well, we have British Airways, Virgin Airlines.
British Airways comes how often?
British Airways comes twice a week. Yes, we have Virgin.
They're once a week?
Once a week. You have American Airlines.
Out of the United States.
Out of the US. We have just lost Air Jamaica.
Yeah.
Air Canada. And I think that's Monarch, sorry.
Monarch also comes out of the UK.
Of the UK.
How often is Monarch?
Monarch comes once a week.
And they all travel year round?
They travel year-round, yes, but there are schedule changes from time to time.
You forgot also Condor out of Germany.
Condor, yes, Condor, yes.
But Air Canada is out of Canada, and they're once a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have some sort of flights out of Canada, UK, and the United States.
And Germany.
And Germany. Who comes out of Germany?
Condor.
Okay. But Michael, is that satisfactory? Is that enough?
No, well, you know, you're always hoping that you could get more airlines coming into the island, but the big problem with this industry is they want you to
put some money up
put
front.
money up front to get them to come into here. And American Airlines is a typical example. And they were really the first ones to call for money. And not this time around, but when they were here before.
Before we go into the how much money, do you have any new airlines coming in shortly? Is there any new ones we can expect? We just lost Air Jamaica, you said.
No, well, the replacement for Air Jamaica is Delta Airlines.
When is Delta going to start?
Delta Airlines, officially, they're going to start in July, but we're trying to get them to come in June. Mm-hmm. And I'm part of an official delegation headed by the Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Grenada Roberts, who is flying out to Atlanta on Tuesday evening to hold discussions with them to see if we could get them to come forward.
To come in June.
Yeah, to come in
but
June.
Right now they're supposed to start in July.
July.
How often?
Right, they're going to come in July and August, 2 flights a week. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're kind of mirroring the Air Jamaica situation, where the flight leaves Kennedy late at night, after midnight, and gets into Grenada soon after 6 a.m. in the morning, and turns around and goes back up. The reason for that is there's connectivity when they get back to the States all over the United States.
When they get back
get back by midday.
We have heard from time to time about Caribbean Airways. What's the latest with that?
Well, we as an airlift committee have been trying with Caribbean Airlines for quite a while. Up to recently, I was in contact with very senior officials in Caribbean Airlines. But as you are aware, they're now taking over all the routes of Air Jamaica. So the guys were very straight up front with us and said, look, you want to hold on a little while, but we will look at Grenada eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
All right. The actual program that you have with each airline, some of it is called market and support. Some of it is called some sort of risk sharing. Explain to my viewers exactly what that means. And which ones it applies to, what applies to.
Okay, well, let me first start off with the American market. They believe in a risk-sharing agreement.
What does that mean?
In the case of American Airlines, we had to put up $1.5 million for them to fly into Grenada. And what it basically means, every time they're coming here, there's a rotation fee. In the case of American, it's approximately $44,000 per flight. Once the aircraft is filled, and you have that number of dollars in the kitty, it doesn't cost you anything. If, on the other hand, there's a flight that is below the required amount, at the end of a given period, you have to pay up to American Airlines. In other words, American Airlines is not going to lose.
They're not going to lose. So they're coming, but they're not going to lose.
Yeah.
As long as we can get the loads up to a particular point.
Yeah.
That allows them to earn that $44,000 per flight.
Yeah. But to give you an example, that when they started the flight in November of 2008, they were doing a daily flight. Now, we had to make these arrangements long in advance of November, because in the airline industry, you're talking about between 6 and 9 months planning before the actual flight starts. So when we initially had going, it was 1 flight a day. And then there was a world downturn, and we quickly got back in touch with them and said, look, we would like you all to reconsider, because we don't think we're going to be able to handle
you won't have enough loads
for that. Yes. And they came back and said, no, there's nothing they could do at this particular stage, because they had all their planning in place. So we ran from November till the end of February. And by the end of February, the $1.5 million had evaporated. Right? But by then they realized, and they reduced the service from 7 flights a week down to 3 flights a week. And American was very good in that they decided, okay, what we will do is we would not charge you all the full $1.5 million. We'd make you only pay $750,000. Right? So they kept the letter of credit for the 1.5.
For the full 1.5.
For the full 1.5. And we had to pay up the $750,000 US for the deficit that we were in for that short period.
So that had to be paid last year?
Yeah, that was paid last year. This year, so they had a new contract because they go from May to April of every year. This year, the flight is doing a lot better.
Why is that?
Well, because the loads are better and we're not flying every day.
You have less flights?
Yeah, well, this is, we're not flying every day.
I want to continue this, but let's just please join in at any time, but because I want to continue this particular area of discussion.
Yeah.
So we have less flights, but the flights have a better load
factor.
because we have less flights.
Yeah.
So therefore the cost to us is
a lot less. It's a lot less. To give you an example right now from October, from May last year, which is the start of this period, to January this year, the loss is only $144,000. So it's costing the island about $6 per head for the number of passengers that have
You said it was from May to February?
Yeah.
So
May to January.
So you have February, March, April, 3 months ago.
3 months to go.
Last year that would have cost us 700 and something thousand.
Yeah.
So this time it will less than 200, it looks like.
Yeah. Because if all indications and seeing the load factors, the flights have been running very, very full for the last 2 months. So I don't think we're going to have a loss in January. I don't think we made money in January. There's going to be money in February made and also March. So I think the loss this time is going to be a lot less than it was last year.
Last year, that's significant. Yeah. That is called risk sharing.
Risk sharing.
Okay. What is Delta would be similar?
Delta is going to be coming up with a similar proposal.
All right. The people out of the airlines out of England, what do they do?
The British have a very different system. They call theirs marketing support. To give you an example, British Airways for 2 flights a week now, which is on a Tuesday and Sunday. They started Sunday from Sunday gone. They asked for £775,000, right? All right, they have been a little more lenient in the sense that we don't have to find the money right away, but they give us definite periods in which we should try to pay the money by. In the case of the American system, you got to put the money up front, right? So that's the difference between the two. If in the case of the American system, you break even or they make money, it costs you nothing. If on the other hand, you don't meet the expectations, you have to put up.
So these expectations should be set up in advance.
In advance.
So
yeah.
if you meet it, you don't have to pay that $750,000.
No.
How is it looking so far?
But so far, as I say, up to the end of January, from May last year to the end of January.
For the British ones I'm talking about.
No, the British market is different. You know, it's a given figure. In the
case, so you have to pay that.
You have to pay that.
They want this for marketing support.
Yeah.
Each one of the airlines.
Yeah.
All right.
In BA is £775,000, Virgin is £300,000, and in the case of Monarch, slight difference because we share that with Tobago. Right now, each island pays $750,000.
How come Virgin is? I mean, I'm happy that it is, but how come Virgin is 300 and British American?
Virgin have a different philosophy to doing business.
Mr. Branton.
So Richard Branson.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, they are the cheapest of the 3 airlines in terms of what's costing the island per passenger.
So regardless, we will have to pay those airlines out of Britain the amounts that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But in the case of the Americans, although we have to put the money up front, it is possible that the amount could be a lot less.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
If Caribbean Airlines were to come, I know what you just said, would that be similar arrangements or would they be coming on their own?
Well, we don't know yet, but you know, we live in a small world, and they know that we are giving risk-sharing agreements to the United States, so they probably will want the same. As a matter of fact, when they were going to try and do a daily flight from Trinidad to Grenada, they did ask for some kind of risk-sharing support. So I would say yes, that's
despite the fact that they were part of the Caribbean family.
Yeah.
How much, if you can tell us, did Grenada have to pay last year?
In EC dollars last year, in 2000, I have some very interesting figures here, but in last year, we spent just under 7 million EC dollars in airlift of all markets.
How does that compare to the year before that?
The year before, it was not as much as it was last year.
And I know this year is not finished as yet.
This year is going to be more.
It's going to be more than the 7 months.
Yeah. You know, there are a number of factors. One of the major factors right now is, as you probably are well aware, the cost of fuel has gone back up considerably. So that does affect your costing, you know. I mean, particularly with the American Airlines. The British Airlines, they have a set figure and so on, you know.
All right. Is it worth it?
Yes, there's no question. I
think that's the question everybody would be wanting to know. Is it worth it, Michael? Is it worth it, Lester? We're putting out $7 million. Yeah. We might put out a little more this year. I'm sitting in my armchair at home and saying, the government has to put out $7 million. Is it worth it?
Well, that's a very good question that you have asked, and it's something that the committee recently did. We did an economic assessment of the whole airlift into Grenada, and I was quite surprised at the numbers. Because what we did is we took the all inbound flights, took a percentage of the passengers that will spend money in the island, like tourists and whatnot. And if you don't mind, I'll just call out some quick numbers here. In the case of the four markets, which is the US market, the Canadian market, the British market, and the German market, the average spend per passenger, you took that and the number from each one of the destinations. In the case of the US market was $86 million. In the case of the
wait, slow down. What is that $89 million?
$86 million.
$86 million
is what the average spend of a passenger, which includes hotel accommodation and spending.
So you're saying then that the tourists out of the United States, on your estimation, spend a total of $87 million per year.
Per year.
At least for the last.
And these are based on 2009 figures.
Okay.
Right.
And what is included there? The hotel, taxi,
everything. Everything. Average spend per
restaurant,
day.
Everything.
Now, an interesting factor here is in the case of the US market and the British market, the average spend per day is less than the Canadian or the German market, where they don't come all year round, whereas the Brits and the Americans come all year round. So to give you an example, we used a figure of 450 EC dollars a day as the average spend in the American market and 427 for the British market. And there were slightly differences in the number of days, the average stay of a tourist in the island. In the case of the Canadian market, it was $645. In the case of the German market, it was $550.
So we say
but it's a much more.
The Canadians spend the most then?
Well, it's not necessarily, because they come for a shorter period of time. That's why the figures are this way.
So the Americans, for 1979, by your calculations, spent about $87 million.
$87 million.
What did the Canadian, British, and German tourists
In the case of the Canadian market, average of approximately $25 million. In the case of the British market, $96 million. In the case of the German market, $14 million, giving an overall total of approximately $222 million.
If you had to hazard a guess, how much of that went to the hotels and how much of that went to taxi drivers, restaurants, store operators?
All right. I got some numbers out of the British market, and the average spend in US dollars was approximately $1,600 US dollars. And out of that, 600 was for spending generally, and the other 1,000 went to hotel accommodation. Some of my good friends in the industry have queried the numbers in the sense that they have said these numbers are low. But my attitude and the rest of the airlift committee's attitude is better to err on the side of caution.
Fair enough.
But
which numbers they claim are low? The amount spent on the
whole package.
So they're saying it's higher than this?
It's higher than this.
All right. Gentlemen, we have to take a break for our sponsors. Business Files will be right back. This is Business Files, and we have been speaking to the chairman of the Airlift Committee, Michael McIntyre, and general manager of the Maurice Bishop International Airport, Lester Andel, and we have been speaking about the Airlift Committee and the airlift arrangements so far to bring these international airlines into Grenada and the cost and benefit as a result of those programs. Michael, you just talked about the passenger spend, and we came up to a total of $222 million. Is there anything? So what about the airport itself, Lester? What does that mean to the airport, these airlines coming in?
In 2009, the airport earned, airport and airport-related earnings total $18 million.
From these international
From these
flights.
international airlines. International flights. From the US market, $9 million. From the Canadian market, $2 million. From the British market, $6 million. And from the German, $400,000.
A question, to both of you. The Canadian market was $2 million. And it is possible if we get, you mentioned Air Canada.
Well,
if we get Air Canada, I think you mentioned that earlier.
Well, let me just say this, that I was part of a delegation that went up to Canada last week to talk to Air Canada on the possibility of doing a year-round service.
Okay.
They're going to get back on to us, but these things take time.
What I was asking is if they come in, that will increase that Canadian figure significantly.
Yeah, if they're coming on a yearly basis, the numbers will think, but the spend will drop.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Lester, sorry, go ahead.
No, Mike said if they come in on a yearly basis, the numbers would even out at a lower base.
But won't we get more tourists though?
You'll get more tourists.
So therefore the total spend should increase.
The total will increase.
Yeah.
Will increase, yes. Yeah.
But
So
just to add a little bit on that, Mike, to give you an example of how important this whole industry is, and in particular, I got some rude awakenings when we were involved in these numbers. Catering, for example. Virgin Airlines caters out of Grenada. They fly one flight a week 52 times a year. The cost of that was $1.5 million. Now, besides the catering company, there are a number of other people that benefit from this. The farmers, the fishermen, the laundries, all sorts of people benefit.
because the restaurant has to purchase
from the farmers and so on. Now, Virgin is looking at the possibility of doing another flight next year. In other words, having 2 flights in 2011. Now, if that happens and they continue to cater in Grenada, that figure of 1.5 million could jump to 2.5 or $3 million, a major boost for the whole industry. You know.
Interesting. Let's say you were talking about departure tax. I'm seeing a total of some $3.4 million in departure tax alone.
$3.4 million in departure tax alone. And these figures would increase as the traffic increases.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what this story doesn't tell, Ponty, and what people has to know, is what these airport-related revenue means on the ground. You're talking about how is it spread? Who is it spread among? We did a study within the airport, and we reckon that the airport earnings account for something like 22%, low 20s of the GDP.
Of the GDP of the country?
Of the country.
That's a startling figure.
That's a startling figure. Direct and indirect employment is about 7,000 persons.
Okay, let's deal with direct employment.
The airport itself employs about 175 persons. Airport, that's the airport authority. Within there you have concessionaires, you have the people who sell the fuel, you have the people who run the ground handlers. And if you add all these figures together, probably it comes over close to 400 persons. Then you have the taxis on the outside. Now, if you say the direct employment on the airport is about 500, and you add the families and all the related services that goes with it, you would understand what the multiply effect of this facility contributes to the economy.
And straight dollar figures for last year, we're looking at $18 million.
We're looking at $18 million.
And this is what you're talking about, does not include LIAT. This is the international.
It's just if the 4 major markets does not include LIAT, which is approximately another $6 or $7 million.
LIAT airport revenues is just under $7 million.
Yeah. You know.
But at least we don't have to pay LIAT. But the interesting thing is, the question is always asked, is it worth it, coming back to my original question, for us to pay out $7 million? So what you're saying here, it is more than worth it.
Yeah, but look at that.
Make that comparison.
You have
that 222, which is the tourist spend.
Yeah, and then you have the airport-related revenues, which brings it up to $240 million, right? And what we have spent, what we have committed in the marketplace last year to the airline industry was $7 million.
If
so
we
3.5%.
Let me ask a question. If we did not spend that $7 million, how much of these international flights do you think we would have got?
You would not have had American. You would not have had, the British Airlines would not have come. You know, to give you an example of British Airways a couple of years ago when they launched into this program, that you want us to fly, you got to pay to fly. By marketing, St. Lucia took a stand that they weren't paying and they just stopped flying, right? So it's important that we have to keep in dialogue with these people and to get them in. And this is the only way you're going to entice them into how you got to be able to spend money. to get them in. And I am convinced that the spend that we are spending is well justified because what is coming into the country.
So 8 million as a proportion of 240.
Yeah.
It's what?
3.4%. You know.
I think these figures will startle most people.
Yeah. Well, it certainly startled me when I was very involved in doing them. And I have to say, Lester was very helpful to the committee, and he gave us all the airport. And the one that came out to me the biggest, as I said, was the caterer. And I was absolutely astounded at that you know. So.
I think that leaves the one that interests me. Although the Americans demand payment up front, the fact that there's a possibility that you don't have to pay them if your loads, you bring your loads up to where you want it to be, makes their program quite interesting. With regard to the British ones, you have to pay regardless.
Regardless. Now, there's something that I would like to say, Michael, and that is that it's all well and good to pay for airlift, but there's another component that we have to get more involved in, and that is marketing the destination.
Well, I was coming around to that.
Right.
I was coming around.
That is an area I always remember the very first time when we had American Airlines. We got involved and we were negotiating with them. The gentleman, the senior vice president in Miami, says, "Look, guys, this is what I want. But if you want this to be a success, you've got to market your island." And this is an area I think we still not doing.
Well, that's my question. And in fact, it's lined up here, written down as a question. Are you two gentlemen satisfied that we are doing enough to market Grenada? I know that's not your particular responsibility, but are you satisfied that we're doing enough?
My frank opinion, no. You know, there's more that we have to do.
But there are two questions. One is the dollar amount spent, and the other thing is the effectiveness of the type of marketing we do. Where would you like to see the improvement? Is it on both fronts? Can we do better with the amount of money that is spent? Or is it that we must spend more?
I think we're not spending enough.
We're not spending enough.
That's my take on it.
Well, I have always felt so, and I've argued this for the last 10 years. Not just now.
Well, I think also that, you know, in successive governments in Grenada really have not paid enough attention to tourism and the economic impact. We had lunch recently with the Minister of Finance, and we presented the numbers to him. And I think at the end of the day, he was quite surprised. And the signal that I got from that is that we got some payments right after. So I think he realized the importance of airlift into the island. And I think generally the whole government is now starting to understand airlift is integral part of the success of our life.
You know, the Minister of Tourism out of St. Lucia, he was on Business Wise program, Island Chassine, and he was very clear in his mind that none of the governments of these islands really understand the importance of tourism. And he doesn't think that the people of these islands understand the importance of tourism. We still battle in our mind. We see tourism versus agriculture, and there's no tourism versus agriculture. They're complementary to each other. But whenever we talk about tourism spend, people seem to think you're taking something away from agriculture. And I don't know how we're going to get around that mindset, Andy. It seems to me every time somebody promotes tourism, somebody in the agricultural sector say, "Oh, you want to leave, you know, you're discarding agriculture," which is far from the reality. And in fact, the two can complement each other.
They are complementary industries. They are complementary. They got to work hand in hand. The food you produce locally, you can in fact get the tourists to consume. It can in fact means more consumption for the farmers. It can in fact mean more money in the pocket. You know, they are not in terms of one should not be exclusive to the benefit of the other.
But then how do we get past that argument that is thrown up all the time?
I think the work that Mike and his committee did here, Mike only provided the figures. I think these are really startling figures, and these figures should be brought out to wider audiences. I think it would help people to understand the importance of tourism, what the tourism industry means in terms of employment of Grenadians, and where we are to position ourselves for the future. I mean, this is a market. It isn't standing there for us. If we don't move, somebody else takes market share. At the same time, if we continue an argument without relevant information in terms of making informed decisions, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. And I think we've been doing that for quite a while.
Yeah.
You know?
But you see, information like this has never come out to the public. And I think this kind of information is vital for people's understanding of, one, the first topic we were talking about, which was the airlift, and the fact that we have to spend $7 million. And you get all the argument of why we have to pay these airlines, we shouldn't have to pay these airlines. I think this will help clarify that. And secondly, the whole matter of the importance of tourism and tourism linkages into agriculture. And I know I've gone off the main topic a little bit, but I just wanted to pursue it. It seems to me that what we should be arguing about is trying to find better ways of improving that linkage to agriculture and to fisheries or wherever. And everywhere else, because it's not only those two. I mean, the guy comes and he rents a taxi.
Yeah.
He goes to a restaurant. And when he goes to the restaurant has to get the supplies out of agriculture.
Yeah.
But somehow we have not succeeded in making that clearly understood to the people of Benin.
That's a very valid point you have there, Mike. But I think this exercise will help to try to get the powers that be to understand more, because there's no question in my mind that there is a great linkage between the two. And the agriculture piggybacks really on tourism. So if tourism does well, it's going to pull agriculture along and it's going to get better. But if we don't do well, you know.
I would argue further, it not only pulls to agriculture, it pulls a lot of other industries.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. Many other industries.
Michael, when you go overseas and you talk to these people, there's the whole argument about which comes first, the chicken and the egg. The airlines used to say, you don't have enough rooms, you don't have enough accommodation. Right? And then the hotel chains will say, we don't have enough airlift.
Yeah.
Where are we?
All right, well, the statistics show that the island really needs more hotels. But when you look at the actual room nights that we're selling here, we still are not to full occupancy.
Well, that's I was going to come to that. We keep saying we need more hotel rooms, yet when the occupancy levels of the existing hotel rooms is not where you want it to be. It does not suggest that you need additional rooms.
Right. But there's another factor to all of this, and is that our costs are extremely high. When we were in Canada last week with Air Canada vacations, that was one of the things that the ladies brought out to us and said, look, you know, we all got to try and give us better packages so that Canadians can come to Grenada. So what the Airlift Committee is going to do, hopefully in the next 10 days, is to have a meeting with the people in the hotel industry to try to incentivize them that they need to be a little more competitive than they are right now. Because they are saying, the Canadians are saying that we could put more people into the island, but the problem that we faced with is your cost. You have to remember that we are up at bases against like the Dominican Republic, Mexico, just to name two of the destinations, and not to mention Cuba. Right? So it is something I think in the industry, in the hotel industry, the guys have to become more sensitive towards trying to do better deals for the tourists.
I want to come back, Andy, to airport-related revenues, because some of these figures here to me are quite startling. I see something called facilitation, which is 1.5 million. 1.6. What is that?
Well, the airport provides equipment and facilities that the airline uses.
Oh, okay.
And the airlines pay for those facilities. For example, check-in counters.
All right. Okay.
Stuff like that.
Okay. Then I see baggage screening, which is another 800,000, and ground handling 3.3.
The ground handling portion of it is handled by our sister company, which is ESG, and that's to do with cleaning the airline, the planes, and they're not directly related to airport authority operations.
That's a separate.
But to give you an indication, the more flights you have in, the greater earnings that you will see from this.
Yes. So this is the earnings of the country. I mean, it might go to the airport, or it might go to the
whatever line you see,
it's spent in Grenada. That's the point you want to make.
Yeah.
Mike, I think there's another point that needs to be mentioned here. Now, this is just airlift and airport-related expenditure. You know that the government has an occupancy tax That is another, I don't know the numbers there, but that is something that we didn't take into consideration.
So that is not factored in.
Not factored in here at all.
So you're saying that 240 million does not account for all the revenues earned as a result of these international flights
coming in, you know. We just did our exercise based on spending in marketplace, airport revenues, and came up with that. Didn't get involved at all in the government revenue, the occupancy tax. The other thing that we have not done at all here is the Caribbean side of things, LIAT. We left that out. So that number of 222 million is small, because if you take the LIAT and the number of people coming into Grenada from international destinations and coming on LIAT,
yes, they go to Barbados or Trinidad.
Barbados or Trinidad to make the connection. So, you know, that figure of 222 million, I think, is conservative, you know. So.
You mentioned tax, and they brought something a little to the side that I want to ask Andy. The departure tax, when are you going to change that, that method you have now of having an extra line for people to go for the departure tax?
It's
not directly related to this discussion, but I can't help it.
For the benefit of the public, effective 1st of May.
Excellent.
Ticket sales, when you purchase a ticket, an airline ticket, the departure tax element would be included at the point of purchase.
Thank you, sir.
So you no longer would be required.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I used to go crazy. You line up at the airline, and you line up at the departure tax, and then you line up out at to enter there. It used to drive me crazy. So I'm looking forward to that 1st of May.
1st of May.
It's not directly related to a discussion, but I couldn't help that one. So I want to go back again. So we have Delta. There is a possibility that we can have Air Canada. A possibility. They haven't committed, but they promise to look at it. But that sounds good.
Yeah, the Delta one is definite, but there are a couple of issues that we're going up next week to try and face to face, and the minister is leading the delegation, which I'm very happy about, because you know it's good to always have a woman's touch, right? And so she's part of the delegation, and we're meeting with them on Thursday, and then on our way back down we meet with American on Friday, because our American contract comes to an end in May. And I think the general consensus among the airlift committees that we are trying to ask American for another service, because recently the indication is that the flights are running 80–90%.
But aren't we running the risk of running back into the problem we had last year?
Well, this is why
additional flights.
Yeah, right, this is why if we're doing it at all, there's only going to be one more.
Only
flight.
One more.
Yeah.
How many we have now?
Three. They come in Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, and go back out Monday, Thursday, and Saturday.
All right. Just want to think the committee should be very cautious, because with only 144 or maybe 150, 160, it looks like that we have to pay this year out of a possible 700 that was paid last year. They don't want to fall back at all by having flights that are not filled. I really hate going through Puerto Rico, though, I have to tell you that. I think they're the rudest people out.
I think most people feel that.
The customs and immigration are the rudest people out by far. I hate going through there. So I'm looking forward to Delta being added to the...
Well, the Delta service is very unfortunate what has happened there at Jamaica, because I think they really gave a very good service into Grenada. Delta is going to try and pick it up, and Delta were very good when we got in touch with them and said, look, we would like you all to consider more flights. They immediately decided to put on another service, so they're going to fly Wednesday and Saturday. They were very straight, and that is, they said, June, we dicey about that because the load factors, the bookings were not good, and they didn't want to fly at all in October and November. But I feel if you're getting into this business, you've got to try and offer the service year-round. So they have agreed, in principle, they will offer the service one flight a week in those soft months. But it means dollars and cents, and it just depends on whether the airline can.
Assuming that your numbers are correct, I would suggest that it is well worth the effort.
Yeah, well, I think so also too.
You also suggested that a Virgin might be thinking of an additional flight?
Virgin is definitely thinking of a second flight twinning with Tobago. And it hinges a lot on whether the Tobagonians will get that big hotel there that they shut down there ready on time. And if they do that, they will come with a second flight.
But none of what you have spoken about is dependent upon our adding another hotel. This is with our existing
with the existing hotels. You see, another thing I think most people here don't seem to really realize, and we only found out that last year, and that is British Airways, their upper classes, first class and club class, increased significantly in 30-odd%. A lot of that didn't go to the hotels. A lot of that went to that marina, and people are not taking that into consideration. But a lot of the people that are flying out of the UK into Grenada are coming in and going on to their yachts and going up to Grenada.
That is news I think the public should know.
Yeah.
Tie that, so tie it a little closer for me. They're coming through at the airport.
Yep.
They're going to pick up these big fancy yachts at the airport. So their spend
is thousands of dollars.
But has that been included here?
No, we have not included that at all. You know. And when a yacht is provisioned in here, it's thousands and thousands of dollars.
I'm aware of that.
And what happens too is that when these guys come in with their plane, with their families and whatnot, and they go onto the mega yachts, you know, they spend a lot of money. Spice Island recently had a guy come in.
Spice Island
Beach Resort, Sir Royston's Hotel. He had people come in to a group come and stay. It was the pilots of the aircraft and the air hostesses. The owners of the yacht put them on the most expensive hotel in the island, and they went up to Grenadines, and so they stayed there. So there are lots of spin-offs that you can get
I think it's interesting that
from the marina.
The ones who go to the marinas are not included in these figures, so these figures can go up. And Liat is not included in these figures.
Liat is not included. You know. What we tried really to do with this is just to try and where you had to go asking for money to justify. You know. But it is much bigger than this.
Gentlemen, we have to take a break for our sponsors, and British Business Files will be right back. Welcome back to Business Files. We have been speaking to the chairman of the Airlift Committee, Michael McIntyre, and General Manager of the Maurice Bishop International Airport, Lester Andel. And we have been talking about airlifting to Grenada, the new possibilities, the spend, and we're going to talk a little bit more, Lester, about the airport itself. What new have you been seeing over the last year? And when you look at the next year, so what new have you been seeing, or you expect, as far as the airport is concerned?
I think Mike made the reference to the marina. And what we have been seeing at the airport since November, December is an influx of these private jets
into the airport. And
these jets flying for a week, weekend, whatever it is. And the passenger would most likely spend the time on a yacht. So we are looking at a totally different segment from the traditional segment we knew of airport, hotel, that kind of thing. But it's a very lucrative segment. It's a very lucrative segment.
Their spend is more, you think?
Their spend is more. Yes, the spend will be more. Although the segment is small, it's starting small at the moment.
But per person? Per
person, the spend will be much larger. We're talking about an individual who would own a higher jet. And we're not talking about the Beechcraft. We're talking about a big corporate jet. Yeah. You know, these individuals want a particular kind of service. They want to see on the airport itself a particular kind of protocol. So they are pushing the airport standards. They are pushing the airport standards.
So what does that mean to your airport in terms of revenue and also in terms of changes that you have to make? You mentioned standards.
Now, and I'm going to use the point here. To get to a new market, you have to tap your existing market to get the monies to develop the new market. Yes. We look at that private jet market as a new segment. And right now we have individuals who we are having discussions with on developing what is called a FBO type operation.
What is that?
These are the fixed base operations that handles these private jets.
So what services would these people provide to the private jets?
They provide refueling. They handles the jet in a way like you have like the airlines ASG. They provide similar type of service, but it's an upmarket service, if you want to call it that It would mean in the airport itself that you have to have a separate handling facility, because these are individuals who want to come in and go out without much publicity, quick time, etc.
Very wealthy people.
Very wealthy people.
And celebrities.
And celebrities.
The Oprahs of this world.
It would mean two things first. It would mean, one, there is the opportunity to enhance the tourism marketing, because if you look at what happens in Barbados, every time a celebrity comes into Barbados, it's a big opportunity for tourism marketing. We have not yet clinched that. Also for the airport, we have to look at additional development, whether it is on just a marketing side or putting an extra apron to deal with this increased jet traffic. But it pushes us to think in a different direction from what used to be the traditional business model.
Okay.
It's very exciting because it throws open a whole new world. And the important thing about it is, if we don't move on it, these are people who...
Let me interrupt you. We have to take a quick break for a technical reason, and Business Files will be right back. Business Files. We had to take a short break for technical reason, but Lester Andel, General Manager of the Morris Bishop International Airport, was talking, Lester, you were talking about the new type of tours, the new type of visitor, the new type of planes you were seeing, and the impact that was having on the airport.
Yes, as I said, it pushes our service delivery to a different level. And once we are in the introductory stage of that segment development, it is a challenge now. You know, we have to move everything up probably two ante, because you're talking about service, you're talking about equipment, you're talking about turnaround, you're talking about the way customs, immigration would deal with this new business traveler or this new leisure traveler. So, and what is important, as I was saying, is that these people have the option of flying into any nearby airport.
Yes.
Because they are yacht bound.
Yeah. They could have to stop somewhere else.
They can stop somewhere else.
And fly there.
So it's not just your airport and how your airport looks. It's all the bundle of services that your airport can deliver to them that would make them want to come and use you as a point for landing their aircraft.
That's interesting. So, well, do you have all the assets you need as you look forward to this new development, and if Michael and his committee succeeds in having new airlines coming in, do you have the wherewithal at the airport to meet these new demands?
At the moment, we have enough to deal with what we are seeing. However, if we want to be a significant player, we may have to build in an additional apron to handle the packing of these jets.
For the passenger jets, without they getting in the way of the existing
commercial operations.
You have the space though for that?
Yes, we have.
Space is not a
well, I
problem.
mean, if you are familiar with the airport has a lot of space.
Yes.
It's just a matter of choosing, putting the aprons on, and you know, making the necessary pathways. You remember the Morris Bishop International Airport has 9,000 square feet of runway space. We can take almost anything that flies.
Yeah, the biggest. Yeah.
You know, and I'm proud to see that.
How does that compare to Barbados, for instance, or Trinidad?
I think both of them are a little bigger.
Yeah.
In terms of the length of the...
But the 9,000 can take the big...
It can take it.
That's important. That's important fact.
Yeah.
It can take it. So if we see an increase, if Michael succeeds with his committee in attracting new flights, international flights, and at the same time we see that increase on the private jets, if we don't say or do anything to scare these people away, these private jets that come through and they link to the marinas, the airport has the capacity and has the assets to deal with it.
At the moment, there are sufficient basic infrastructure to deal with it. Like I said, if the segment grows on us, we'll have to think of putting in additional...
What do we have to do, though, as a country? I'm throwing a hard question at you. Not just what you have to do at the airport, but what do we have to do as a country to attract more of that rich segment, that wealthy segment that we haven't really seen much of before? What do we have to do?
Ponte, Mike's committee here, and I always tell him, I say, your committee is in marketing. It's in marketing. And whilst Airlift at that stage might be dealing with ordinary commercial, we need to have a separate marketing approach, whether it is through a private venture or through airport-related venture that looks especially at those type of aircraft and their owners.
But where does the Board of Tourism fit into this? I mean, they handle most of our marketing.
I think that they might be complementary, but they might be two totally different market, and the mindset of operating would be different. Put it that way: the people who own the private jets are the fussy people. They want time and attention. You know, the ordinary business traveler, he looks for what I call convenience at the airport, whether or not you have electronic check-in, whether or not you have the tax and the ticket. All these things are what concern him. The person who owns the private aircraft, they're not going to check in at a counter.
That is why I wanted to interject here at this stage, Michael. I think it's very important, if we're going to increase the private jet sector, that we have to get a fixed base operation, because you're dealing with very, very wealthy people, celebrities, and they don't like the hassle of having to go through the normal.
And they don't have to do it elsewhere.
And they don't have to
so
do it
elsewhere.
Do it Barbados is a good example. They have a fixed base operation there where it's handled totally different to the airport itself. I think we can capitalize because of our proximity to the Grenadines, you know, and a lot of these planes that are coming here, you know, these very wealthy people, they want to have that level of privacy that we don't have there. So that's something I think really that we need to try and work hard on and to get it going. To give you an example, Carlos Slim, the Mexican who is now supposed to be the world's richest man, he came with his boat here last year, flew in here and went up to Grenada.
Nobody knows that.
And very few people knew that, you know. And that's just one of many, many of these people. He's now considered the richest man in the world.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
But I think it's important that if the airport authority and the country as a whole recognizes the importance of the mega yacht sector to the island and the benefits that we could get, one of the things we will have to do fairly quickly is to get an FBO operation.
But we also, as a country, the population, the government, the Ministry of Tourism, the Tourist Board has to understand the importance of this sector and gear ourselves up to attract this sector. If the airport alone, the airport authority can't do it, the airport authority might have to provide the facility for them to come through. But is there an understanding at the Tourist Board or the Ministry of Tourism that there is this potential out there that you're seeing at the airport, Michael is seeing? Is there an understanding at the level of the powers that be, Minister of Tourism, Board of Tourism, that this is a new opportunity for us, and are they making the required steps to start capitalizing on that, or are we just merrily going along? That is my fear.
I would say probably at the moment we're just merrily going around. But you made that ask those interesting questions. These are areas. This is a sector that needs to be brought to the front, whether it is brought through the Minister of Tourism or through private ventures or whatever it is. And in most cases, the FBO operators are private individuals, and it's because of the, I want to use the word sensitivity that goes along with that kind of operation. You know. The level of service, the kind of service demanded. So I would think that in a not too distant future, some approach would be made. And I don't want to say too much on it yet, but some approach would be made. There are things in the pot where we would make the appropriate presentation.
Well, you can depend on business files to keep promoting any new venture in tourism that will redound to the benefit of this country as a whole. We have heard what we have said in the past, come under some licks in various places, but we are very strong on the whole matter of foreign investment in this country, and tourism and any sector that could expand to benefit the people of this country, which is Business File will continue to promote. Gentlemen, we only have 2 minutes. I'm going to ask both of you to say a final few words to the viewers with regard to the airlift and the importance, and Lester, you to follow.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come here tonight to talk on airlift. The Airlift Committee has been working very hard, and we continue to do it because we have a very simple philosophy. If the island does well, everybody will benefit. And airlift into the island is an important part of the overall development of the island. So we are working very hard at trying to continue promoting that and getting more airlines to come into the island. And at this stage of the game, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me here tonight. It's been a very nice experience, and I wish you all the best with your program.
Lester?
I thank you for inviting me. I would like to say too that to all the listeners out there, the airport remains the gateway into this country. It's a prime economic asset, and it's a major contributor to the economic development of this country. And I think for too long, very few people understood the contribution that the airport makes and its importance in terms of employment. You know, you own a taxi, or you're a vendor, you don't understand that probably what you're selling or the person that you're traveling with today actually came through the airport, and that's the reason why you're getting this sale. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you. This is the end of this segment. Business Files will be right back with my thoughts. This is the period in which I am able to express my own thoughts. And I have to say that the figures that I heard tonight were very startling. The thought that $233 million in total is coming into this country as a result of the international airlines, and we in turn are expected to put out some $8 million. There's no doubt in my mind that the Airlift Committee is doing a fantastic job, and the amounts that we have to pay to the separate airlines, while I wish we didn't have to pay, that is the nature of the beast, that is the nature of the industry, and it seems to me that it's well worth our while to pay $8 million to have $240 million spent in this country. And if, as we heard tonight, this does not take into consideration all the various sectors, Lester and Michael both spoke about this new opportunity of the brand new, of the private jets coming through this country as a result of the international, of the new marinas we have. And those figures are not taken into consideration here. It seems to me that we have to make sure that we continue to give the Airlift Committee all the support they can. I want to urge the government to give the Airlift Committee all the support that they possibly can. I also want to urge the Minister of Tourism and the Board of Tourism to consider very closely what Lester has just spoken about tonight, and that new segment and the possibilities that could be attached to that new segment. Decisions need to be made. And there's a saying that decision is a spark that ignites action. Until a decision is made, nothing happens. Let's make some decisions and move our tourism sector further. I am Michael Archibald, and that is all for this week on Business Files, and I look forward to seeing you next week, Thursday.